Building sites have long been a target for thieves, with 1 in 5 experiencing theft on a weekly basis. With heavy plant and tools left on site overnight, it makes for rich pickings for organised gangs. But it's not just the large, high-priced equipment that attracts thieves. Construction manager Peter Carter is well aware of this criminal threat.
We're a medium-sized civil engineering firm. We operate nationally, doing anything roads, sewers, drainage, renewables, and anything in between. It is an expensive game. The equipment varies in cost from a few £100s up to several £1 million. As a result, it's quite desirable to thieves.
And they've suffered their fair share of robberies.
We'd had a lot of thefts. Some of them are small value ones, some of them are large. Each break-in costs us about £10,000 excess for every insurance claim, causes a big delay in production, and it's generally an all-round kick in the teeth. So we've become quite frustrated from having a lot of disruption caused by small plant being stolen. So we decided to try and fit some of the trackers we regularly fit in larger plant into some of our smaller equipment.
So they turned to Peter Thompson's tracking company for help.
It's quite an unusual item that we were tracking. It was a saw used for cutting into concrete and heavy materials, so the actual value of the item is only a few £100s, but they were getting hit really hard with particular types of tool theft, and they were getting hit in the same areas, and they really just wanted to put a stop to it.
We fit trackers to 2 disc cutters. One of these saws we would generally buy for about £500. That's a small item, they're very easy to pick up and walk away with, and quite untraceable.
And sure enough, the weekend after they had fitted trackers, their building site in Reading was targeted once again. Thieves broke in and ransacked the place, making off with 2 of their valuable cutting saws.
The guys came in on Monday morning to find out containers ripped open, plants strewn everywhere, machinery taken out of the place, and just the nasty aftermath of a break-in. So once we realised what had been stolen, we realised some of the items had trackers in. Straight away we phoned Peter to get him and his team into action.
We were first notified of the theft of the cutting saw probably about 8:30 a.m. in the morning. We immediately deployed an investigator, in this case John Mussett, who went down to site.
So I had a look at the last location that they'd given, which was in the early hours of the morning. They were showing about 5 miles away from the site. So when I was about an hour away from Reading, the office contacted me to say that the track circle had moved, and they'd been looking at it every few minutes, and it had actually moved up towards Henley-on-Thames. So from that we drew the opinion, obviously, that wherever the 2 stolen saws were, they were on the move, probably in a vehicle. While I diverted to go through Henley, they actually then moved back again, the track circles, back to where they'd been originally in Reading. I'd picked up a signal on the rangefinder. That had taken me into an estate where I'd ended up near to a corner shop. There were 2 suspect vehicles parked near to the corner shop. A people carrier with 1 person in it, 1 male, initially outside the corner shop, and a van just on the opposite corner which was unoccupied. Wasn't sure which vehicle the signal was coming from.
He had to call the police at that point because it's not safe for him to go in and identify which vehicle without revealing his identity to people that are watching. So he called the police in, but at that moment one of the vehicles drove away.
And the tracking signal was also on the move.
Which then told me that the stolen items were in the back of that particular vehicle.
John was hot on their heels.
To be fair, it's probably one of the slowest pursuits I've ever been involved in. It is very difficult to follow somebody at such a slow speed, and there were not many vehicles about. It was literally, they were in front of me, I was trying to keep a decent distance between us, but at some point I think they had realised, probably quite early on, that I was following them. The thieves were constantly going around the estate, kind of in a bit of a figure of 8 really. It was all quite slow speed, and then they went down a cul-de-sac. I was aware it was a cul-de-sac and obviously wasn't going to follow them to the bottom of it and leave myself vulnerable. So I stopped where another road came off the cul-de-sac and then waited literally a minute, and they reversed back out of the parking bay and started driving up towards me. That was quite scary, to be honest, I then took the decision that I wasn't just going to sit there to give them the opportunity to block me in. So I actually set off in front of them, and then for probably about 4 or 5 minutes they were following me.
As the chase continued, John kept the police updated, but the power tool thieves were closing in, right on his tail.
That's quite scary. When I heard the sirens, was a big relief. Yeah, in total it probably wasn't that long. It seemed like a long time. The police were coming from the opposite direction. We'd gone onto the main road at this point, so I told the police that there were no other vehicles between them and the subject vehicle, and they basically just pulled across the road straight in front of it and kind of did a tactical stop.
The chase was over, and thanks to the tracker, they caught the crooks red-handed, around 8 hours from when the saws were stolen.
The police had straight away opened the driver's and passenger door, got the two occupants out of the vehicle. They detained them, but another officer went and searched the boot, opened the boot of the vehicle, and there were the 2 stolen cutting saws in the boot. I wasn't told till later on that I actually found, I think it was at least 2 offensive weapons. There was a pool ball in a sock and also a knife, as well as quite a large quantity of drugs.
The thieves got their just desserts, sentenced to 2 years for both burglary and drug offences.
The really positive thing that's come out of this is that the sting operation was actually successful. Since that time, there have been no further saws stolen or other items that they were targeting with the sting operation, and we appear to have disrupted that criminal network's activity.
The trackers were paramount. Without the trackers, we wouldn't have got the saws back, and the customer was really happy. They were over the moon with it.
With this theft, we found out that the items had been stolen about 8 o'clock in the morning, and by about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, they'd been recovered, and that was a fantastic feeling.